one of the groups came to me and said, you know what, we've been sharing services in DPW with our towns and villages for 34 years. And in 2015, we're going to have to prove to the governor that we've really saved money. What can you do to help us? Well, Oneida County has a fairly substantial capital project. I call it Enterprise Content Management, and it's based on the Laserfiche Rio system. That's a DoD, Department of Defense certified software system that processes documents. And we've been implementing it for about 2 years. Currently, it's being used by the DA to process cases. Our Board of Elections is using it to process documentation that comes into them. And we're just undergoing a pilot project right now to process all of our contracts using it. And the important part of it is DoD certified. It's secure and has an audit trail, a verifiable audit trail, so that in 2015, when the governor says, prove your savings to me, it's not just two guys in the back room with an Excel spreadsheet. This is verifiable of what happened throughout 2014. Dennis?
We've practiced a shared service agreement, well, a non-formal agreement with the towns and villages for as long as I've been with the department, and I'm sure it existed prior to that. The documentation was, as alluded before, it was one guy in a room with an Excel spreadsheet, just trying to track what equipment was sent where or received from who, just so that we could give a report to the governing boards. And I'm going to say sometime in the late 90s, we had met with the state controller's office about some best practices and different things that had been done throughout the state by different municipalities as a cost savings enterprise, shall you say, for the taxpayers. And when they saw how in Oneida County we had shared specialized equipment, they were really intrigued with it, and we sat with the controller's office and went through a few things. Out of that, there came a recommendation that this process really should be one that was formalized, and the governing boards actually authorized that. So our county attorney's office worked with a number of town attorneys. They drafted a shared service agreement, which is a 5-year agreement. It's renewable every 5 years. But it really sets forth what the restrictions or abilities are for this equipment to be shared. Doesn't require it to be shared, it just gives you the opportunity. The problem with the way we were tracking that is you know, when the boss comes to you and says, well, how much did we save this year? And your first thought is, I can't tell him I don't know. But we really had no quantitative way to really describe what those actual savings were. So we had worked with the idea that, well, geez, through this Laserfiche, if we could take a very user-friendly form that when a call came in for a request for equipment, it had like drop-down menus where the person taking the call could easily document what piece of equipment was either going to what municipality, from which municipality, had the New York State rental rates of that particular equipment already encoded in there, the labor rates with fringe benefits, so that as you entered these entries, it would automatically document it and keep a running tab on it, so that at any reporting period, if your county board or your town board wanted to know quarterly, what's going on, you could provide that documentation rather easily. I think as most municipalities are experiencing, our most important resource right now that seems to be the most difficult is man hours. We're not hiring more people. We're trying to figure out how we can do things more efficiently, do a better job with what we have, and see if we can minimize costs. And hopefully, I feel very confident that this form that has been developed will really lend us to doing that. I think the dollar amounts that you see up there are very conservative, because those are the transactions that we could identify. Part of our issue internally in our department is that we would get equipment from towns on certain jobs, that wouldn't get documented as us receiving them. I honestly believe that where you see on the slide there, that the 2014 municipalities saved in Oneida County, the total of 106,000, I think that's a very conservative number. I think that's probably much higher. But because of the way our reporting, our documentation was, we couldn't identify that.
I'm Sandy Brennan, and I work with General Code, and we've provided the county with this Laserfiche program that Ann mentioned. And I'm going to just kind of quickly go through the demonstration that Dennis mentioned about the challenge that, they were doing a great job with sharing services, but the real challenge was keeping track of what was coming and going and so on. So my objective here was to come up with a simple way to capture the information, capture that data, and place it somewhere that they could use it and report on it. And so the first step in that process is a form that gets filled out. Now this form could be someone in the DPW gets a call and someone says, I need to borrow something, or it could also be available online. So any municipality could go online, let's say the city of Utica, and say, fill in their information about who they are, and then down at the bottom, they capture the equipment that they want to borrow. So the list of equipment is here, and based on what they choose, the municipality that has that equipment is listed here. Then they put in how much they want, how many days, the hours per day, the day that they want to use it, the start date, whether or not they want to include labor. And you'll also notice as I'm going along here that it's tallying how many hours that equipment's going to be used, and it's doing the math based on the equipment. I can add additional equipment, so I can choose to get a roller. I learned all kinds of new terms. I have no idea what a shoulder snatch thing was. It's fascinating to learn, I have to say. So I can just go through and pick whatever equipment, and once I hit the submit button, that information is captured. I get a very nice thank you. I also get an email. So an email goes to me as well as to the municipality where the equipment was requested. This is a confirmation letting you know. A form is attached showing you exactly what the request was, etc. And even more importantly, the data is also captured in an Excel spreadsheet automatically. So you can see here the two pieces of equipment that I just requested are at the bottom here, and it goes along, gives me all the information was captured, and then it does the calculations for both equipment and labor costs. So it makes it an extremely simple data capture process. And the other thing that it does is it puts the information in Laserfiche. And this is Laserfiche. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's just a document imaging system. And what happens is when that request comes in, it goes into here, and it's quantified here. So I can look at all of the equipment the city of Utica has requested, the types of equipment, when they requested it, and so on. So not only do I have it in my spreadsheet, but I have something that I can say, look, this really happened. This person submitted it. I'm not like Rizzo. It's proof, and it's verifiable proof that the transaction took place. The other thing that we wanted to ensure was that if for some reason the transaction didn't take place, we didn't want to skew the numbers too much. So at the end of it, on the day at which the transaction was to have taken place, I haven't waited long enough, they would get a second email with a survey saying, so how did it go? Did you really borrow this? And so on, so that you could report back to that community so that we would have accurate data to work with. And now that the documents are within Laserfiche, I can look at the data in any way I want. So if I wanted to know what equipment Oneida County lent in the last month, I can simply do a quick search, and I can see who they gave it to, when, who they contacted, the equipment, and so on and so forth. And I can look at this data from any angle that I wanted to. Show me all the equipment that was borrowed on the 22nd of September, or and so on, or how many man hours, how many of them required labor, how many didn't, and so on.